been ages. It seems like ages, and it has been ages since the last episode on this. And the main thing we've been doing is the IVA test. Essentially, when you modify a car significantly, there's a question mark over whether that car's registration is still valid. So to avoid any potential complication, from the very start of this build, we decided we were going to put it through an IVA process and re-register it. So a lot of what we've been doing for the past probably month and a half, I'd say, has basically been finishing off everything we needed to do for that, getting it through the test, which went well. In fact, amazingly well. There's so many hoops you have to jump through, sort of regarding sharp edges, both on the exterior and the interior, things like emissions as well, that we were reasonably confident that we'd thought everything through. We've kind of done this process before, but it's always a bit nerve-wracking to see what it fails on, because some things would be a lot harder to resolve than others. And it actually only really failed on the speed sensor, which we've got a pickup on one of the front wheels for the Speedo, and because it's an undriven wheel, they don't actually have a way of testing that at the IVA test centre. So although it's not against the rules to have the speed sensor on an undriven wheel, they can't test it. So it failed on the basis that they couldn't prove the calibration was correct. So we just had that independently checked and gave them a certificate basically to say that it was correct. And yeah, that was that. So we have an IVA certificate for it. Probably the first time you've seen it with everything in there. So the strut braces on, the caps for the reservoirs, we've had them anodised and then laser etched with the various logos on there, oil on there, you've got the brake and the screen wash logos. We've made this cover for the injectors to sort of cover all the wiring for the injectors a while ago, so that's on, and it's got the plaque. I don't know if we showed that when we visited Cosworth, but the plaque that Cosworth did, it's quite a cool finishing touch. It's got Gordon's sort of first Grand Prix win location, the car that it was, a Brabham BT44, and the date, sort of celebrating 50 years of the Cosworth DFV. So yeah, it's the first time we've kind of seen it together with all the details in place. And then over the last few days, we've had Dale here doing all of the final paintwork, detailing, ceramic coating, everything. That's kind of the final process we do, because once you've got the freshly painted shell, you can start all the build-up work. But just from day-to-day dust and leaning over the car and whatever you're doing with the car, you'll tend to find you get fine scratching and just things that aren't perfect with it. And obviously it gets dirty over time as well. So he comes and gives it a really deep clean, machine polishes all the paintwork so it's back to its absolute best, and then seals it all in with a ceramic coating so that it's sort of protected from light scratching, and it's much easier to clean as well. So it just means it's much easier to keep looking as it is now.
I'm Detail by Dale. I've been invited on site by Retropower to do a paint correction and ceramic coatings on their handover vehicle. Why we get called on site is because the car is built over 2 years. It gets handling marks and obviously gets wiped down quite a bit in between, and then it gets abrasive markings on the paint. Our task then is to refine the paint back down to this sort of condition where it looks nice and wet and glossy, and then we add a protective ceramic coating over the top to increase the durability by 2 to 3 years and just make it really easy maintenance. We come on site and we do the initial inspection of the vehicle. So we'll do a paint depth gauge, make sure that we've got enough paint and lacquer to actually work with, and then we'll do the cleansing preparation point, which is a full alcohol strip down. This removes any sort of like residual waxes or polishes that have been put on the car in between, and shows the true condition of the paintwork that we've got to work with. So we literally strip the paint back to bare naked paint. So there's no fillers, no glazes, nothing on the paintwork. This has got a composite bonnet and composite boot lid. Anybody that does machining will know they're quite difficult to get up to a decent cutting temperature, whereas steel's quite easy to get a good cutting temperature and soften the paint off and work it. So majority of the hours went into the bonnet and the boot lid on this vehicle. Over 4 hours per panel just to get them to a second stage of finish, and then another 2 hours to actually get the gloss levels out of them. So we spent about 40 hours in total. This being what it is and whose car it is, obviously we wanted to get it on absolutely on point, 100%. When you're doing my job day in, day out, you get people with a variable table of quality. Some people only want a single stage enhancement. This has had more than 4 stages of cut and polish, because it's just got to be right. There's no ifs and buts. The car's built to such a high spec. This is what we call full correction and a full detail spec. This is brand spanking new. Every aspect of the car is. So as far as getting it back on top, it wasn't such a drawn out process. The engine bay is immaculate, all the glass is very good, all the trims are very new. So we haven't had to do much chasing on that. It's just more the paint where it's been handled. That's the top and bottom of it. So the engine bay is quite easy to clean, to be fair. So the engine bay, basically we take on the same principle that we want to protect it while it's new. So as far as fill points go on the vehicle, so the radiator, oil, coolant and washer bottles, they will get spill on them. So we have ceramic coated all those, because anodizing will actually deteriorate if you leave anything that's alkaline rich on it. So we protect all those. The intake air box has also been ceramic coated. Inner flitches, tops of the wings, because you do get moisture drain off, we've also ceramic coated all that to protect it from watermarking and staining, and actually enhance the protective qualities of the paint for anti-corrosion. So it's a good move, even in the engine bay, to get the ceramics in there, definitely. The reason why we've ceramic coated this vehicle is it's real ease maintenance for the long term, increased gloss levels, and also for the handling of the vehicle. This car we photographed a lot, cleansed a lot, and basically what it does for us is puts an extra hard shell over the original paintwork. So once it's cleaned, you're only ever cleaning the ceramics, which is a lot harder than the paint. So you're looking at a 9H hardness coating. And that's the big benefit, it really is. It's just always going to look good for the next 2 years. There's no waxing, there's no polishing required. It is literally quick detailer work.
Cal, so where are we heading today?
Northampton Motorsport, which is Troy Robinson's business, and he is the man who does currently all of our mapping, rolling road mapping. I hope one day, but it'll probably be a long way in the future, we might be able to do this ourselves and have our own rolling road, but at the moment he's the man. So we're just finishing strapping this down. What time is it? 8 o'clock? Yeah, 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock yeah. Saturday morning. I mean, what's the meaning of this? It's just a day of rest.
Yeah.
And we're going to shoot over there. It's about 45 minutes away, maybe a bit better this on early when the traffic's okay, and hopefully show you a bit about what's involved with mapping, or show you footage of the car blowing up on the road. One or the other.
We've been a Weber dealer since the company started. So we've always done DCOE carburetors, side drafts. We're also SU dealers, so we do lots of classic cars with SU. So I guess we started doing that. And then when I joined the company, engine management was kind of just becoming a thing that was affordable for, if you like, the clubman rather than the professional motorsport outfit. So again, we got involved with Weber Alpha, which was an early engine management system, started calibrating more and more cars, and it kind of grew from there. And now cars like this and lots of classic cars are being converted, so you've got all the reliability, drivability benefits of a modern engine management car with the kind of look and feel and sound of a classic car. So it's a win. A lot of companies like Cosworth will do all of their development work on an engine dyno. So, as the name suggests, that's just the engine. Yeah. No gearbox, no transmission. You haven't got the restrictions of the engine physically being installed in the car. Yeah. So, often they don't have the full exhaust system, they maybe don't have the airbox. And all of those things subtly change what the engine actually needs in terms of its calibration from the ECU. So we often find that the full power stuff at full throttle is very close to optimum, but of course you don't drive everywhere flat out. So, and on a road car particularly, the drivability, cold start, idle, trickling along in traffic, all of those sorts of things are very difficult to recreate on an engine dyno. But on a rolling road, that's much more easy to recreate. Going to get really bored. There's hours of this to go. Oh, the map is so far out, it's unbelievable. So basically all of the yellow dots on this graph are points in the map that I've physically visited.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're using the rolling road to hold the engine speed. And then once I've set that, I can kind of go from no throttle gradually all the way through to full throttle, and the control system on the rollers won't let the engine accelerate anymore. So it allows me to work up a line of sight, adjust the fuel and ignition using the dyno. As you change the fuel and ignition, you can see the emissions readout change. So we're looking for the best emissions and then adjusting the ignition to get the best possible power and torque without any danger of the engine detonating, which is that metallic clicking noise you can hear.
Yeah.
And I can hear it through these sooner than you can. This is basically an amplifier that's bolted to the engine and a little box of tricks that filters out some of the other noise, and then through these I can hear that sharp clicking noise, which is detonation, which is very harmful to the engine. So the yellow dots are where I've physically been, and the blue dots is where the ECU software has averaged out the values, and it's a way of getting to an accurate map more quickly than doing every site, which will literally take a couple of days. Yeah. And you'll see at the end when we're done, the shape of the graph will be a lot different to how we started. And I have to do that for both the main fuel and ignition maps, and then behind that there are lots of other maps that control what happens to the engine when you're on the overrun, when you blip the throttle, when the engine's idling, when it's warming up. So these are the two main maps from which everything else is derived.
That's took about 20 mil out of it.
20 mil, yeah.
And the stones in the torch.
2 o'clock. That's not too bad. That's a 10 we go about 10 past 9, didn't we?
So it normally takes about that much time to produce.
Yeah, I'd say that's gone all right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it always takes. It's never super quick, and obviously Troy's going to be keen to do a reasonably good job of it. Yeah. It's all the time spent on all the kind of the middle of the road mapping, if you like, the sort of not the peak power stuff, but just making sure the drivability's there. I think that's what takes the time, just ironing out, making sure that whatever revs you're at, whatever sort of load you're under, you can ease a little bit of throttle on and it feels good, or you can give it full throttle, and all of those different scenarios feel good. So the proof will be in driving it, but yeah, I think it went well.
Was there any not problems, but...
Not really, no. Well, it didn't blow up, that's a good start. Only real issue was we blew a little bit of oil out the diff breather. Not a huge amount, but I think we've got a plan for revising it. But yeah, it was when we had to put a little catch pot under that just because it blew a little bit of gear oil out of the diff. But to be fair, as a sort of first time it's ever been used flat out, I think that's a win really. If that's the only niggle, So yeah, no, it's completely leak-free other than that. Yeah, made the power as well, made 245 horsepower, so Cosworth quote 250, we kind of knew by the time you've got an exhaust system in there, you know, which is not perhaps as big as it could be just because it's so tight to fit a decent exhaust system on one of these without putting a tunnel into the floor. So yeah, that was easily as much as we were hoping to get. 176 pound-foot torque at the peak, but yeah, really nice spread. What were you just saying, 150 from 3,000, so looking at that curve, it's going to feel good. It's always nice where you don't have to rev it completely out when you change gear. It drops it onto quite a good amount of torque rather than having to absolutely wring its neck to drop it onto the torque again. So that should feel pretty good. Everything hunky-dory, yeah. No, I'm just glad there's not a big pile of rods on the floor, basically.
There's still time, you have to reverse it out still, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Don't tempt fate. Somehow doing the alignment will manage to blow it up.
So are you guys back here for anything else?
Possibly not. I mean, the proof will be in driving it. If there's a few more tweaks to do, we'll bring it back. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty much, now that's out, ticked off. We're alignment check. And then yeah, road testing and track testing, hopefully. I think that's the bit that everybody's equally excited and nervous about, is Gordon taking it out and driving it in anger, whether that be on the road or track. But it's going to be that's the end result that we've been aiming for all the time, isn't it? So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed for big smiles.